Hi, my name is Andy Harris and welcome to our course on building games with HTML5. As we go throughout the course, we'll be doing some really exciting things using a number of languages. But the foundation of all web game development is the HTML language and its variation CSS. Well, CSS allows us to do some interesting things with HTML. Before we move on to the more interactive pieces, we have to have this framework at first. And so in this first unit, we're going to learn how to build a basic HTML site. Of course, this being a game programming course, even our most basic site will be a game. We'll have a lot of fun with this. Now, if you already know a little bit about HTML, please bear with me. Some of this may be a review, but there are a few things that may be different. First of all, we will not be using any kind of a fancy editor like Dreamweaver. You need to know how to build the HTML code by hand because we're going to be doing things that Dreamweaver never dreamt of. So you need to know a little bit about how to do that by hand. The other reason that you'll want to review this is that I'm using HTML5, which may be slightly different than some of the variations of HTML that you have used before. For example, we have access to audio, which HTML4 and XHTML did not have. So it may not require a whole lot of study here, but you will still want to kind of see what's going on. Well, before we dig into a lot of code, well, let's play a game. And you can see in front of here we have an epic adventure game. Okay, not so epic, but it's sort of an adventure game called The Adventures of Gugu. Why he's Gugu, I don't know, but there he is, good-looking fella. You are Gugu, an intrepid explorer. Your goal is to become a game developer. Best of luck to you as you begin. I can't wait. Let's click on that link and we'll begin. We click the link and we have our first decision. Will you use an expensive software tool or will you use a book to learn how to build your own games? So we could go use some sort of expensive, fancy software development tool. Hey, nothing wrong with those, by the way, but you don't need them. Or we could use a book. Hey, that one looks a lot like one of mine. Interesting coincidence. Okay, well, which one are we going to do? Yeah, I agree. Let's go ahead and use the software. That's the easy way out. So we'll go click on that software picture, and it doesn't look good. It says you chose the software, but now you have no money, and you can't figure out how to use it anyway. Look, there's a little sound effect. Let's play it. Let's hear what he has to say. Clearly I used a highly paid voice actor for this. Okay, very nice. So we lose, and I know that's goofy, but I kind of enjoy it. Let's try it again. Alright, let's try again. We are Gugu again, intrepid explorer again. Our goal seems to still be to become a game developer. Let's begin. This time we're going to use the book. Or the course, really. Hey! He's happy now. You chose to read the book. You learned all there is to know about building web-based games in HTML5. You win. Okay, let's hear the happy sound.
Woohoo! Yeehaw! Making me a game.
Okay, now honestly, you don't really have to get the book. If you want to just use these videos, that's fine. But I do have a companion book that goes along with them, and every example that I talk about here is available in the book as well. So if you want to use that, that's great. I think it'd be handy. But you see kind of where we're going here. The really interesting thing is, well, we can build an adventure game. And we'll do that. As your first exercise, you'll build an adventure game. Now we need to know the tools that we'll need to be able to build that. And what are those tools? Well, first you'll need to be able to create a web page. You want to create a web page that you can put a graphic in, that you can put a link in, and that you can format a little bit. You can make it look relatively decent. Now there's a whole lot more to know about HTML and CSS than I'm going to teach you in this course. I'm going to teach you enough so that we can move on to making games, but if you're interested, you should take a look at some of the other courses available and some of the other books available to learn these skills, because there's far, far more than I'll be showing you here. Still, you'll get the basics here. Now let's take a look at this kind of game and get a sense of how it works. I'm going to bump this up a little bit so you can see it. Not that much. Now this sort of game, an adventure game, normally follows some sort of a tree, some sort of a map like this. A computer scientist might call this a finite state machine, and that would make that computer scientist feel proud of himself. But you already kind of know what's going on here, right? When we think of an adventure game, it's basically based on a series of nodes. There's states. I'm in a various state. And so the very first state of our game would be choose the tool. Every state involves some sort of a decision. In this very, very simple game, the decisions will simply be, hey, I click on one picture or another. As we get more sophisticated, you may have much more complex stuff. You know, do you have the key? Have you defeated the troll or whatever? But in this simple one, we'll make them all, hey, I click on a choice and I move on. Now, of course, I just showed you the very, very simplest form of this, basically just because I wanted to give you the basic ideas. But here is how a more fleshed out game might go. Of course, this is still pretty simplistic. Now, each of these nodes could be represented in a number of ways. I'm going to recommend on our first pass that you simply would make a page for each node. And so every time I make a decision, what does that do? That takes us to another node. And we can follow the flow of the game without writing a line of code. The first node, choose a tool. Do we choose the software or the book? If we choose the software, we're out of money, we lose. That was sad. If we choose the book, of course in my truncated version, we win, we're done. But that's not much fun, we need to do more. So the way I would like to flesh this thing out, maybe you'll do it, probably you should write a better adventure yourself, is, okay, another choice. If I'm at the book, how am I going to do it? Am I just going to play the sample games, or am I going to read the book carefully? So if I play the sample games, I have a good time, but I never achieve my goal of making a game. If I decide to read the book carefully, then I decide I'm ready to make a game, and then I have to choose. Hey, am I going to make a plan, or am I just going to get started? And I don't know, but this is what I normally do. I just get started. And you know what happens to me? I don't get anywhere. So then that takes you back. If you decide to just get started, it takes you back to this spot. You say, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How about I make a plan? And then we think about the plan. Do we make some massive, massive, complex plan? Well, I'm going to make a massive multiplayer online role-playing game, except with monkeys and bombs and stuff. I know it's my first game, but yeah, sure, I can do that. No, probably you won't succeed. Your first game should be a little bit more manageable. So if you decide something huge, you get overwhelmed, nothing ever happens. You decide something manageable, you win. Yoo-hoo! Wee-haw, making me a game. Yeah, it was me doing the voice acting. You probably figured that out. Pretty cool stuff, huh? Now, once we learn enough about how to build pages, if you already know how to make HTML pages with links and images, you're ready to go. You can get started. But if not, come back and look at the next few lectures and we'll talk about how to build your own pages. I'll see you then. Bye.